Welcome to the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network for Thursday, May 27th. Ian Cameron with you. We are hoping to be joined by both Jimmy Murphy and Alex B. Smith. Jimmy should be along momentarily. Alex B. Smith is getting the fuse box repaired in his place. And unfortunately, until that happens and until the guy gets there to fix it, he's without power. So we're hoping that gets rectified before the end of the show. If not, we'll probably have to wait till tomorrow to see Alex again. But nevertheless, we're here with the Thursday show, the Thursday edition of the Ice Guys. We have two elimination games on tap tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. One is a Game 5 between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Montreal trying to avoid elimination. And the other is Game 6 between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators, with the Nashville Predators looking to stave off elimination on home ice. So excited to break those down. Before we do, let's get into last night's action. The first game last night was the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders. And look, a very disappointing, frustrating, infuriating series loss for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because you look at that series, you did a lot of things right. I thought Game 1, they carried the play most of it. What happened? They lost the game. Game 2, Islanders were a lot better. Actually, Game 2, the Penguins won. Game 1, the Penguins had that opportunity to win that game. I thought they were the better team for the large part. The third period was probably the one period you could say the Islanders won in Game 1. But Pittsburgh, I thought, carried the play in Game 1. They lost the game. They did bounce back in Game 2. They did win Game 3. Game 4, the Islanders deserved it. They dominated. So 2-2. And you're thinking to yourself, Pittsburgh, after 2-2 in that series, going home for 2 of the last 3 games, going into Game 5, that you're suddenly feeling pretty good. You played well in Game 1 that you didn't win. You played well in Game 2. You played well in Game 3. You really had one terrible game in the first 4 games with the series tied 2-2, and that was Game 4. That was the one game for sure in this series where you can say, you know what? The New York Islanders completely dominated us. They were fully, hands down, the better team start to finish. No question about that. So still, you like the position you're in. You should have won Game 1. You didn't. You did win Game 2. You did win Game 3. And the one game you were thoroughly outplayed, you lost, Game 4. So you're still liking the spot you're in going into Game 5. And the Penguins do all the right things in Game 5. They're just pounding shots at the net. They are generating tons of quality, high-danger scoring chances, tons of great looks, playing in the offensive zone, having the puck more often than the New York Islanders did, doing all of the right things in Game 5 in Pittsburgh, and then all of a sudden, you're kryptonite through the entire series. And look, I'm not one to put it's a team game. I fully accept that. I fully understand that. And nobody gets it more than I do. But this series was lost almost single-handedly by Tristan Jarry. It's got to be said. You can't sugarcoat it. You can't sweep it under a rug. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Tristan Jarry subverted this series for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's exactly what happened. He shit the bed through this entire fucking series. That's what happened. The goaltending was piss poor. Piss poor. You can't even sugarcoat how bad it was throughout this entire series for Tristan Jarry. And you hate to really pile on someone. He's feeling terrible today for his performance in this series, but he was absolutely dreadful. And you knew the beginning of the end might have been near for the Pittsburgh Penguins with that awful giveaway in overtime of Game 5. Again, another game where Pittsburgh's doing all the right things. They're having the puck. They're generating chances. And all of this good stuff is happening for them. And unfortunately, Sorokin was great. They didn't finish enough. And then the New York Islanders, the few chances they get go in the net because it's the red light district in Tristan Jarry's world in this series. That's essentially what it was. And of course, the giveaway to Josh Bailey, they lose that game in overtime. And even yesterday, now's the best part. This is the best part of this whole thing. Game 6 last night, Pittsburgh, facing elimination, did what I thought they would. coming out of that gate strong. I had Pittsburgh in the first period last night. I didn't fully trust them to win the game, but they had the first period I thought they would. An early quick goal from Jeff Carter. Thank you, by the way, for the plus 300 prop winner, Jeff Carter, with that goal. Thank you very much. 1-0 Penguins. Great start. Teams come to play. Facing elimination. Backs against the wall. All of this stuff. Couldn't have asked for a better start. Couldn't have dreamed for a better start from the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got momentum. You're taking it to the New York Islanders. You're peppering Ilya Sorokin with a bunch of shots. And then the first chance that the Islanders truly get, a little bit of a breakdown. Anthony Beauvillier in on the right wing side to the net, unimpeded, but the backhand roof job over, the glove hand. The glove hand of Tristan Jarry that apparently is completely and utterly useless in this series. That glove hand. At this point, with the way that glove hand had been completely exploited by the New York Islanders in this series, he almost be better off not even wearing a fucking glove on his hand in this series. It would be every bit as effective. It really would. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious how every shot was beating him over that glove to the high side, and give the Islanders credit for figuring it out. They knew that was a weakness. They knew that was a problem for Tristan Jarry, stopping anything to his glove side. And they targeted it. They zoned in on it. That's good coaching by the Islanders, and that's good awareness and recognition by the New York Islanders to say, this guy can't stop shit over his glove side. We got to keep shooting in that area. And that's exactly what they did in that game and throughout that entire series. So they tie it 1-1, and you're like, oh boy, Jarry can't hold the lead. And then Pittsburgh answers with a power play goal, Jake Gensel, 2-1. And for my first period bet, I'm feeling good again. Penguins are up 2-1. You got a chance here. And then sure enough, right back down again. Hideous rebound on the second Islanders goal that ties the game. Awful rebound. Kicks it right out back to Palmieri, who punches it home. And it's 2-2. And once again, you got to be shitting me. The Penguins are controlling the play. They got all the shots right now. They got most of the quality chances. And the couple the Islanders have found the back of the net. And it's 2-2. So that's frustrating. And of course, you see the period end that way, 2-2. Second period starts. Penguins, again, they're not deterred. They come out. They're strong. They're flying. They get that 3-2 goal. Things are looking very, very promising again for the Penguins. They get the lead back. Penguins, again, their forwards. Crosby had a strong game. I thought he was working. His legs were moving. He was hard to get the puck from. We know Jeff Carter had the first goal. He was good. Rust and Gensel, made impacts. They had their chances. They contributed. Pittsburgh's got momentum. Their forecheck game is working. They're in the offensive zone. Lots of good things for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, of course, Islanders come back down the ice, and here they go, 3-3 in the net. And I'm thinking at that point, that's it. Mike Sullivan, that's it. I understand you got a conundrum on your hands here. Casey DeSmith's injured. I get that. He's your backup. You got to get this guy the hell out of the net. Enough is enough. You got to do it. And I said at 3-3, we've given him chances to protect 3 leads. 3 leads. 3 leads. We've given him that chance. And he didn't protect any of them. And instead, they keep him in there. And the Islanders are still getting momentum. Now the game is starting to turn. 4-3. That's actually the one goal that I thought, not much he could do there, Jarry, on the fourth Islanders goal. And then the backbreaker. Brock Nelson through the old wickets, through the old 5-hole, just barely seconds later, and bang, it's 5-3 Islanders. And I'm thinking, wow, Jarry again, a weak goal. It's been basically the MO of this entire series for him, right through the wickets, a goal you just cannot give up at that time of the game to fall behind 2 goals. So then at 5-3, Mike Sullivan uses a timeout. Calm everybody down, rally the troops, and I'm thinking, all right, he's using his timeout, and now Jarry's finally going to get pulled. And I'm thinking, great, all right, settle the team down, get this hot mess of a goaltender out of the net, and put someone else in there. Put someone else in there, put anyone else in there. So then the timeout, and I see the Penguins players, they're huddling around the bench, Sullivan and the coaching staff, they're talking on the bench to the players like, hey, 5-3, come on, we're playing well. We're doing a lot of good things here. Stick with it. There's lots of time left. All of this stuff. And then the players break from the bench. And I was thinking, all right, Jarry's gone. And then the players go back to the ice. And there's Jarry going back into the net. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Tristan Jarry back in the net. After all of that, he is back in the net. I was shocked by that. I couldn't believe that. Completely inept goaltending, season, slipping away from you, and the guy that can't stop a beach ball's back in the net. If I'm Maxime Lagacé, you know what I'm thinking? How much does this coach think of me that he can't even put me in right now? How much does he think of me? I'm only a guy that started a handful of regular season games in this league, going back to Vegas with the Golden Knights, started a bunch of games, played well in some of them. I started one regular season game for the Penguins this year. One. Do you know what it was for Maxime Lagacé? What was that one regular season start? What was it, you might ask? Do you know what it was? It was a 29-save shutout. It was a 29-save shutout by Maxime Lagacé against the Buffalo Sabres. That's what it was. That guy somehow, you don't think is as good as this guy and the way he's played in this series, Tristan Jarry? I couldn't believe it. Like, how little do you think of Maxime Lagacé to not even give him a sniff in the net in that situation last night? Holy gosh. I mean, my goodness. This is now an NHL, folks, where we often criticize coaches for having, too short of a leash on the goalie, that he pulls them too quickly. But holy mackerel, this leash was as long as the border between Canada and the United States, apparently, for Tristan Jarry in this series. And to see Mike Sullivan stick by this guy consistently, I get it. You don't have DeSmith there. And you maybe, Lagacé, you're concerned about the lack of playoff experience. But you're at the point now where I'm pretty damn sure and confident that I would be willing to trust anybody else but Tristan Jarry for the rest of that hockey game once it got to 5-3 in favor of the New York Islanders. But hey, I'm not the coach. Mike Sullivan clearly disagreed. Clearly didn't see it my way. And now the Pittsburgh Penguins. And look, before I completely, just rail on the bad goaltending of Jarry, I do want to acknowledge how good and sound and structured, and they never get deterred. They just stick with it. They just keep on coming. That's the way the New York Islanders play, and full marks to them. They're very well coached. They're very good defensively, and they just kept at it. They basically, capitalized on piss poor, horrendous goaltending, by Tristan Jarry throughout this entire series. And they got the job done. And their own goalie, Ilya Sorokin, was magnificent. And credit to Barry Trotz. He basically sat down a veteran who's been here a few years now, in Semyon Varlamov, and basically said, you know what? We've got something with the kid here. He's played well. And Ilya Sorokin got the net and ended up playing extremely well in the net. See, Varlamov was shaky in game 2, which was the game the Pittsburgh Penguins lost. Unlike Mike Sullivan, who acted like a numbnuts in this series in terms of his goaltending, he got Varlamov out of there. And he said, I'm going to turn to the kid. The moment that he saw that Varlamov was not himself, was not right, was not on top of his game. We did not see that from Mike Sullivan. He just stuck with Jarry. Look, I understand you got to give him some time to work through it. He's earned that right. He did have a very good portions of his regular season. But this series has been a nightmare from him, right from the opening puck drop of game 1. And your season is slipping away and you don't ever make a change. That's something I cannot and I will not accept. Can't accept that. And you look at Crosby and you look at all these guys and the post-game press conference, the effort. Jeff Carter in his late 30s, the effort, the incredible series he had, and it goes to an absolute waste. It goes right down the garbage chute because your goaltender couldn't stop a goddamn thing. That's a really sad thing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Really sad, because I thought they could have had a better fate in that series if they got a couple saves. Clearly, they did not get those. And unfortunately, they're done as a result. Having said all of that, let's give the Islanders their props. They're a good team. They are structured. They're very well coached, and they are going to be a handful for the Boston Bruins in what should be a very good, very hard, heavy, physical series coming up in the East Division Final between the Boston Bruins and the New York Islanders. It is a fantastic time now to bring in Jimmy Murphy, because I need to calm myself down a little bit after that. After that absolute debacle with the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. Seeing this team play a good enough series to win the series, in my opinion, they did. And the stats will back me up on that in terms of chances and shots and all that stuff. But the goaltending, let's be honest, it single-handedly, it basically subverted this series, and basically it really did. And it's tough. And this is going to be a tough day. This is going to be a tough few weeks for Tristan Jarry, but he's got to own it. Like, he was just terrible throughout this series, and it cost the Penguins in the end. Jimmy, what are your final thoughts, Penguins and Islanders?
Well, you pretty much summed it up there. And by the way, I really enjoyed that rant, and it was great. You kept me backstage because it allowed me to sneak in my lunch. I haven't hardly eaten anything today, so that there was. I'm
thinking of your appetite. It's not my anger; it's your appetite, and I want to make sure you get your nutrition.
Exactly. And if anger and venting helps that, then that's fine with me. But no, you're absolutely right. But the one thing I'll say is, well, that's factually right. I think what's also factually right is it's not Tristan Jarry's fault. I blame Mike Sullivan, just like you did. He doesn't decide when he should be pulled or not pulled. He's a young goalie. He's not some veteran goalie like a Tuukka Rask who's going to shake off a coach when he gives him a nod to come off for the backup. He's not in that position. So Mike Sullivan has all the power here. Or does he? Maybe there was something coming up from above. I don't know. But it seems to me that, this with Jarry is a Jim Rutherford guy, right? He's the guy that Rutherford chose over Matt Murray, and also chose not to bring in any veteran netminder with experience for situations like this. So they aren't depending on Legacy. And I agree with you. I think it's a total slap in the face to Legacy. He deserved to go in there. The time was right. You just put him. You could have even put him in and calmed the game down and put Jarry back in and given him a breather. It didn't even have to be permanent for that game or any of those games. It could have just been something like that. I just think there was a complete mishandling. I don't know. I'm not going to put it solely on Sullivan. My impression is totally on him, but I don't know if anything came from management. But bottom line is, it's the team handling of Jarry that lost this series, and not specifically just Tristan Jarry himself. And there were some breakdowns as well. Let's not hide that. And John Marino coming out of his zone looked like the puck was a hot potato every time. It was ridiculous. So there were some turnovers there that they need to own as well. But yeah, it's got to be frustrating, especially if you're Sidney Crosby and if Jenny Malkin and Chris Letang, where this could be it for that core, and they could get split up in this offseason. I'm hearing from my buddy Dan Kongarski at Pittsburgh Hockey Now that maybe the addition of Jeff Carter prolongs that core there a bit more, because Carter, I think, has a year or two left on his contract. So maybe when they acquired him, they were envisioning at least one more shot with this core. But time's running out on them. And it's just embarrassing, the first round exits they've had, when they've had better teams than a first round exit dictates. So I'd be ticked off. I feel for Melissa Cunningham. I feel for my friends in the Penguins organization and all my friends that are Penguins fans. That's just frustrating, because that series could have easily gone 7. And then, whatever happens at game 7, you can't really blame anyone. It's anyone's series then. But that's an underachievement, I think, on the Pittsburgh Penguins side. And that's not to deflect, or kind of downplay what the Islanders did. They played a great series. They've been in playoff hockey mode, unlike the Penguins, throughout that series. And they're going to give the Boston Bruins all they can handle. I think, my early prediction right now in the last, 12 hours or so is that this series is going 7. I like the Bruins to win it in 7, but I think we could see, just like we have in Carolina or Nashville, I think we're going to see home team wins every game at home type series. Now, that could change, obviously, in that game tonight with Carolina and Nashville, but I think that's the type of series we're headed for, because look at the advantage the Islanders have at home with that crowd. You can't tell me that didn't play a role there. It's just, you cannot deny how much of a role that crowd played, and it was awesome. It just drove me through the roof, excited about hockey again, excited about life again, because it felt normal again, and I love it. And now the Bruins are going to be able to be at almost 100%, which I'm hearing is going to be about 16,500 for game one, whether that's Saturday or Monday. So that place is going to be rocking too. This is going to be a fun series.
Yeah, it will. There's no question that Bruins Islanders series is going to be great. It's going to be competitive. It's probably going to be a long series. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I felt absolutely. And Melissa's, of course, a huge Penguins fan. I'm not even a Penguins fan. And I'm just feeling it's gut wrenching to watch Crosby and all of them in the post-game press conference, because they're looking at this and thinking, what the fuck just happened? We did a lot of good things in this series. We carried the play more often than not. And yet we're going home in 6 games because we just couldn't get a stop. I mean, Crosby's too classy to ever say anything disparaging about his goalie publicly. He'll never in a million years do that. But deep down inside, he's thinking, our goalie let us down in this series. Anybody on this Pittsburgh team will do. And if you're Maxime Lagacé, like I said, these guys must think I'm some piece of shit goaltender for me to not even get, this look, one chance, one crack, one shot in the net in this series with everything that went down. I mean, my God, holy fuck, 5 goals allowed, 5 in a must-win game by Tristan Jarry, 5, and the 5th goal was the worst of all, maybe, through the wickets, through the 5-hole. Close that 5-hole up, man. Goaltending 101, right through the wickets. Brock Nelson, 5-3. They call the timeout. I'm thinking, here comes the change. And there's Jarry just skating his way right back into the net. I'm like thinking, what's going on here? Does Maxime Lagacé have incriminating visual evidence of Mike Sullivan committing murder or something? Like, what the hell is going on? What's going on? I mean, my gosh, you can't even get in now? With your season slipping away, series slipping away, everything slipping away. And he still couldn't get in the net. The guy that had a shutout for you during the regular season. Okay, it was against Buffalo. I get it. Oh, maybe you're a little afraid. The shutout did come against one of the worst teams in hockey, but he had a shutout. He did show an ability to play well. And for Sullivan to just not even make a switch there, it's unbelievable. It's unfathomable what ended up happening there. But the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's a tough pill to swallow today. Good enough to win the series. The entire team, for the most part, they did have a couple giveaways. Jimmy's point, like John Marino didn't have his best series on the blue line. There's no question. And they were running around at times. But anytime they needed a save from their goalie, they flat out did not receive it in this series from start to finish. And that cost them in the end. And as a result, Islanders moving on. And you're right, Jimmy, that Bruins-Islanders series, look out. It is going to be a very fun, physical. I think it's going to be a rough series, too, because the Islanders can play a little bit rough. Bruins can as well. And it's fresh. These 10 teams haven't met in the playoffs, I believe, since way back in time.
1983.
Right, exactly. And the Islanders' heyday.
Yeah, when they're in the dynasty. They lost. Bruins lost to them in 6 games in the Wales Conference final. For all you youngins, the Wales Conference is now the Eastern Conference. So just so you know what that is.
No, that's going to be good. It's a fresh series. It's a fresh, new. It's not Boston against the Flyers or the Capitals or the Rangers or the Toronto or the same old stuff. Yeah, we got something different now. Boston and the New York Islanders. And hey, it's Boston, New York. What else needs to be said, right? I know the Islanders are like the 2nd or 3rd team on the pecking order behind the Rangers in that area when it comes to hockey. But still, having an Islanders-Bruins series will be a lot of fun. What else did we see last night in the NHL? We saw the Florida Panthers get ousted by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look, that was the best, most complete offensive-defensive game combined by the Lightning in this series at the time they were hoping to see it. They suffocated Florida. Did Florida really get a ton of great looks at the slot area right in front of the net? No, everything was to the outside. It was a brilliant defensive game by the Lightning. Give them credit. Can't blame Spencer Knight. A lot of breakdowns, and he kept his team in it for as long as he could. He's still got a bright future ahead of him. Look, Tampa Bay's just too deep, too good at this point in time when they play like that. And Vasilevsky was outstanding. Stamkos scores on the power play. Braden Point with the goal that pretty much sealed the deal and put the dagger in the heart of the Florida Panthers. So Tampa Bay advances. Look, they bring that game the rest of the playoffs. Tampa Bay's got every chance to defend their crown, in my opinion, as Stanley Cup champions. Don't sleep, obviously, on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that was a very nice closeout of the Florida Panthers. And if you're the Panthers, smile. The sun will rise again. There's a lot of good things on the horizon for the Florida Panthers with their forwards, with their defense, and, of course, with the young prospect and phenom who's only going to get better, Spencer Knight in goal. Jimmy, final thoughts on the Panthers and Lightning as Tampa moves on.
Yeah, and just say I apologize. I was a little distracted there. I've been getting some texts here trying to figure out the schedule. I am being told now by an NBC source, game 1 is definitely Saturday night for the Boston Bruins Islanders, which he hasn't answered the question yet. I said, well, so they're going to put a game 7 potentially of Predators Canes in the afternoon. That's kind of a shaft to them. I mean, if you ask me,
they want the big markets at night. That's why. Yep.
Well, they want the bigger markets at night, but I mean, why not just hold off Bruins Islanders until Monday? I guess because they want to finish things as quick as possible. That must be it. So It looks like if the Preds win, game 7 will be on a Saturday afternoon on Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, good luck with those ratings, NBC. So, I mean, if it's beautiful in either of those cities, like unless people can get the TV outside or something, I don't know. I think you're killing yourself. I think you should make game 1 Monday, no matter what. Like right now, just make game 1 Monday, give the teams a little more rest, heal up the injuries, and make it on Monday. But then again, that would be like a 12-day layoff for the Boston Bruins, or 8 days actually for the Boston Bruins. So
we have to keep in mind one thing too, Jimmy. NBC doesn't give two shits anymore. Hockey's not going to be on our dial anymore after this season anyway. So it's almost like they're saying, mail it in, we'll put the
but it's a 50-50 split on the decisions. They split it right down the middle with the league, which makes this is why good luck to Turner and ESPN too, when you're dealing with a league that isn't going to grasp that nobody is going to be freaking watching this game on Memorial Day weekend on an afternoon on Saturday, maybe Monday afternoon, because everybody's nursing their hangovers and getting ready for work the next day, but not now. I just think that's a dumb idea, but that's what I'm being told. So book your calendars. But yeah, as far as that Florida Panthers series, I'm with you. And, and our sister website there, Florida Hockey Now, George Richards, he wrote exactly what you just said. I mean, the future, not even just the future, the present is good. They just gave the Tampa Bay Lightning almost everything they could handle. And speaking of bad goalie decisions by a head coach, if Coach Q would have played Spencer Knight instead of Chris Drieger after that first game that Bobrovsky shit the bed, then I think this series is going to 7 games. I think maybe even the Panthers won this series already. I really do. I don't know what the whole goalie shuffle was about. I don't give a shit what people make against the salary cap. You play the goalie that gives you the best chance to win. And it was clear that was Spencer Knight heading down the stretch run of the season. And it should have just been done and over with. But, they messed around, and here they are. And, of course, you got Tampa on the other side, who has Vasilevsky, who I don't think is getting enough credit around the league right now. He probably is in Tampa. But, I mean, he was superb in this series, dominating as always. So that's scary for any team that has to play the Tampa Bay Lightning. But the future is already here for the Florida Panthers. They're a contender now, and they can look forward to that going into next season. The biggest question will be, what do they do with goalie Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think they're going to at least explore moving him, but it's not going to be easy. That is a big ticket. And that's not a ticket that people are going to want to take after this kind of seasons he's had. Seasons
maybe
now
Seattle.
in Florida.
Maybe Seattle.
Yeah, exactly.
They're about the only one.
That's right. Maybe they'll take a chance on him. But you're right. Mike Sullivan can take a few notes. He's got to sit down and take a few notes here. Quenneville figured it out eventually, but he probably should have done it earlier. But Barry Trotz, what did he do when he saw Varlamov? The first sign of shakiness. Sit him in game 2 when they lost to the Penguins. Sit him down. Go with Ilya Sorokin. He won for us in game 1, and he rode Sorokin the rest of the series after that. What has Sheldon Keefe done with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yeah, Jack Campbell's been awesome. He's been too good. We got to keep going to him in the playoffs. Even we got to sit the guy that's making the big bucks, the veteran, Frederick Anderson, because look, who's given us the best chance to win right now? Jack Campbell. And he stuck to his guns, Keefe, with that. And look at what we're seeing with Toronto. Look at Sorokin with the New York Islanders, the way he's played. Look at Nedeljkovic down there in Carolina. They could have gone back to Mrazek, for the start of this series, but he hasn't been quite as sharp, and he's also had a lot of injuries this year. The kid was great, Nedeljkovic. We're rolling with him here in the playoffs. Brind'Amour doing the right thing. So you're right. I applaud the coaches that have the guts to say, the number one guy or the previous number one guy or the veteran number one guy, Varlamov with the Islanders, Anderson with the Leafs, Mrazek with Carolina, sit your ass down, you're good goalies, but we feel right now we're in a better position to win with some other guys, with Sorokin, with Nedeljkovic, with Campbell. Credit to those coaches for doing that. And like I say, Quenneville did figure it out, but the problem is he waited till game 6 to figure it, or game 5 to figure it out. That's the problem. And there was just too much shuffling before that. And maybe Florida's got a better chance if they go to night earlier, but we'll never know. Tampa Bay, I'm not so sure though, because Tampa Bay, boy, pretty damn good the more that series went on. And now they'll await the winner of Carolina-Nashville in the Central Division Final. And then, of course, the Minnesota Wild. Terry Edelman's Minnesota Wild. What a performance. I mean, what can you say? It was a tight game. There was not a lot of room to make plays out there on the ice last night through the first 2 periods. And then all of a sudden, a little bit of a giveaway and a turnover at the blue line, and that's what led to it. Leads to Minnesota's first goal, courtesy of the dogged, determined, and hardworking Ryan Hartman to get the Minnesota Wild on the board, 1-0. And then the big swing in the game was the Vegas disallowed goal. Clearly contact with Talbot. Not a lot of contact. And look, if it were me, they'd let that goal stand. But the rule is the rule, and the rule is that kind of contact is no goal. So I have no issue with the call, that it was no goal. I'm very, very I didn't like the challenge from DeBoer because I didn't think he was going to win that challenge. But he challenged anyway, lost the challenge. So it isn't 1-1. It goes back to 1-0 Minnesota. They capitalized right away on the power play, 2-0. What a swing that was. The goal being disallowed, you lose the challenge, you give Minnesota a power play, and now you're down 2-0, and it could have been 1-1 just a few minutes earlier. And that really took the wind out of the Golden Knights' sails. Minnesota kept on coming. They put the 3-0 goal away at that point, and they ended up winning the game 4-0 with a terrific third period performance against the Golden Knights. And look, now all the pressure shifts to Vegas. This is now becoming a common occurrence for them that it's not easy for them to close out a team in the playoffs. They've struggled to do it the first couple of times, and now here we go back to Vegas, and I know that home ice is strong. The Fortress is loud. The crowd will do everything in their power to fuel the Golden Knights. I know they've got Max Pacioretty, I'm hearing, potentially waiting in the wings for a Game 7 return, save the season, save the team, so to speak. We'll have to wait and see on that, but I know the Golden Knights are potentially thinking of having him ready to go for Game 7 on Friday night. But nevertheless, there's some serious momentum now on Minnesota's side. They have belief now that they can not only play with this Vegas team, but beat this team and win the series. And now we'll have to see what the Golden Knights are made of back on home ice in Game 7. And as far as I'm concerned, Jimmy, Mark Stone's had a decent series. Marchessault, decent series. I think they could play better. And they've got to start getting something from where's William Karlsson? Where's Riley Smith in this series? Where are some of these guys for the Vegas Golden Knights offensively? Tuck's been pretty good. I can't blame him. But Smith and Karlsson, who, let's not forget, year 1 of this franchise had outstanding seasons, and they've just not contributed all that much for the Golden Knights. And now you see Minnesota on the flip side. Kaprizov starting to get it going. Fiala finally gets off the schneid with a big goal in the third period. There's things to like for Minnesota, and they've got all the momentum as we go to 7 Friday night in Sin City, Jimmy.
You know what? I like it. I like what things look like right now for the Minnesota Wild. And look, I think that forecheck has really forced the Vegas defense. And I think we saw this throughout the season between these two teams. I think Minnesota did it the best, and they're doing it again in the playoffs. They forced what is, let's agree, the greatest asset for the Vegas Golden Knights is that puck-moving defense. They forced them to readjust on the fly a lot. They forced them to adjust their approach into the offensive zone or through the neutral zone. And it's working right now, and it's rattling that defense. They really aren't used to this. You haven't seen any other team really do that as much, and I think that's been the key for the Wild right now in every win. And if they can do that in Game 7, I do not see why they can't take home that series and advance to the second round.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. He's not back for sure, Kyle, asking about Pacioretty. It's just there's a potential for him to play his first game of this series for the Vegas Golden. And look, I've had criticism of Max Pacioretty in the past, but they could use him. He's had a great season for the Vegas Golden Knights. They need a little bit more offense, especially in the top 6, because look, they're one strong top 6. It's got Stone still playing pretty well, and Marchessault's playing okay. And then they're not getting much else from anybody else in that top 6 right now. So they could use Max Pacioretty back for game 7. We'll have to wait and see if he suits up. Let's give Cam Talbot a ton of credit too. Cam Talbot, I will always have his back. I will always support him. He's a almost Hamilton guy. He's actually from Caledonia, Ontario, which is just outside of Hamilton. Good. I mean, he's had a nice career. He backed up Lundqvist for years on the Rangers. Bided his time, waited for a starting opportunity, had pretty good playoffs with the Flames last year in the bubble, got the contract with Minnesota, got the chance to be a legit number 1 there. Pretty solid regular season overall, more than solid, good regular season, and has been really strong here in this first round series. So props to Cam Talbot, playing great hockey in net for the Wild here in this series. What a save he made in the third period when Vegas was still pressuring them pretty well. So game 7, we're guaranteed, Jimmy, at least one game 7 here in the first round, and it'll be Minnesota-Vegas Friday night. Looking forward to it. Also looking forward to tonight. Let's turn the page to tonight. Thursday night, we've got 2 games. We'll start with the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Win or go home for the Montreal Canadiens tonight. We've got Toronto minus 220 here almost as home favorites. 5.5 the total, shaded to the under. You know, this Montreal team just cannot find the back of the net. They cannot put the puck in the ocean. They have 4 goals in 4 games in this series, and that's the same amount of goals William Nylander alone for the Toronto Maple Leafs has in this series. So it's been a problem. Look, Toffoli's got to find it. Like, this is a guy that's disappeared the last few games. Where's Tyler Toffoli for the Montreal Canadiens? Josh Anderson had a good game 1, nothing since. Thomas Tatar, forget it. Yeah, totally non-existent. Brendan Gallagher, I can't fault him completely. He's had opportunities. He's had some really good looks. Stopped by Campbell, hitting the post a couple of times. Brendan Gallagher's trying to score, but the puck's just not going in right now for him. And it's just not going in for this Montreal team. I think their defensive game has been decent enough. Carey Price has been really good in this series. Really good for the Canadiens, but you can't tell because they're down 3-1 in this series. But it's not at all the goaltender's fault. Goaltender can't score goals for you. Goaltender can't rush up the ice, lug the puck, and put it in the back of the net. That can't happen. So it is going to be up to the Montreal Canadiens to find some offense, to get this power play going. What I'm shocked by is they didn't feed Cole Caulfield enough. Like, I find he didn't have enough shots. They didn't have enough output in that other game, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's not easy to score against Toronto right now, Jimmy, because we've talked about it. They're finally playing good team defense for the first time in years. They've got the guys to do it now, up and down their lineup. They got forwards that play 2 ends of the ice, that play a complete game. You've got blue liners that play with that physical, defensive-minded grit edge to them now, which they didn't have in years past. Montreal's got to work extra harder to find some offense tonight. Can they? We'll have to wait and see. Everything that you've seen, the eye test tells you Toronto continues to just, get better and stronger in this series, and Montreal continues to just have a hard time scoring. Toronto's going to end it tonight. I think they probably will. But the one thing I know about the Leafs in this franchise is they don't do anything easily. And in a moment like this, where they can win their first playoff series in 17 years and finally put away and put aside a bunch of the disappointments that this team has had for the last, 10 to 15 years in the playoffs, not even winning a single round. I don't expect this game or this series to end easily for them. I don't feel strongly about this game either way from a side perspective. I think I've given up on betting overs in this series. I would probably only look under with just the way Montreal has shown you no ability to find the back of the net with the defensive discipline that Toronto's playing. And another thing, Jimmy, about the under too, is when Toronto gets a lead, they're not going after more goals. They are sitting on the lead. They're protecting the lead and they're playing defense first. So that concerns you too, in terms of if you have any consideration for the over tonight. So I would only lean to the under, but I get the sense Montreal has one last real strong effort in them. And I could see this being a game that if Toronto wins it, it's not going to be easily. So I think where I might be going here. I also think we're kind of due for an overtime game in this series, and I'm going to sprinkle on that. That's going to be my one bet pregame in this matchup tonight. Montreal-Toronto draw plus 350 is what I got with that, at Bet365. Really good price. I think this is a tight game. I wouldn't put it past the Toronto Maple Leafs to finish the series tonight, but I do think it's going to be a tight one. I do think it'll be close. I think Montreal will throw their best punch they can at this Toronto team. And if the Leafs do win, I think it might require beyond 60 minutes to get the job done. So give me the draw here, plus 350. I think we get a close one tonight between the Habs and the Leafs. Jimmy, what do you think? Game 5, Montreal, Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I guess if you lose in you lose in this amount of games, you are kind of going quietly into the night. But I don't think they'll go quietly into tonight. I think the Habs do give them a battle in this. I don't know if they can win, but what I do see is them coming flying out of the gate, shot out of a cannon in that first period, and maybe having their best first period of this series. So that's why I like the three-way line there for the Canadiens in the first period. You get some great value. I'm looking at plus 285 for that right now. And I also like the under. I think that, Carey Price, obviously, he's been great in this series. This has not been his fault by any means. And I think that continues in this game. And you mentioned Campbell as well. So I think it's going to be a tight game. And you know what? If I was going to take something on the side too, I promised I wouldn't, so I won't, but I might lean towards the Habs extending this, and I could see overtime as well. But my official play is the three-way first period for the Habs.
All right, and that is, by the way, that's not just Montreal plus 170 money line first period. Jimmy's going for that minus a half. So for Montreal to lead after the first period, which is plus 280, that is a hell of a price right there. Montreal to have the lead after the first period. I'm going with the draw, plus 350. And then I don't have to concern myself with who wins, because you could see a scenario like Edmonton-Winnipeg. That's the comparison I'm making. This game tonight to the game that we saw with the Jets and the Oilers, where we saw the Oilers fight back in Game 4, push the game to overtime, and then still end up losing the game. That could happen tonight. Montreal battles, competes, forces overtime, and then they lose in overtime. It's just difficult. I mean, it's difficult because you look at all these advanced numbers too. I got to bring this up here about this game tonight. Last game, 4-0 final for the Leafs. Apparently, in terms of the expected goals for the entire game, that's 5-on-5 and all the shorthanded situations. The expected goals were 5.05 to 2.51 in favor of Toronto. That is a dominant edge. That is a dominant statistical advantage. At 5-on-5 alone, Toronto Maple Leafs 2.8 to 1.76 in terms of expected goals. So it has been, again, more than a 1-goal edge in that category. Expected goals 5-on-5 in that game, 4-0 shutout win for the Leafs. So, yeah, the shots were pretty close to even, but these aren't great looks that Montreal is getting. That's the problem. And when they do get those great looks, they're not burying them. So this is something that's going to have to change. And I don't know if I can bank on that changing, because it's basically been the way the series has progressed the last couple, where it's been Toronto getting all the expected goals, Montreal not getting many, if any. And we'll see if that can change tonight. It's going to have to, if Montreal is going to extend this series and send it back to Montreal for Game 6 on Saturday night. The second game, Carolina taking on Nashville. This has been a home ice series from the beginning. The home team has won every game. Carolina minus 140 here in this game. Road favorites in Game 6. The total, 5.5 shaded to the under in this game between these two teams. This one I do lean a little to the over at 5.5 at a really good price, plus 120. I do think we've seen a lot of fatigue, all right? 3 straight overtime games. When you play that much hockey, and remember, the Sunday game was triple overtime. When you play that much hockey, you're going to see gaffes. You're going to see some breakdowns, some mental blunders, and those show up defensively more than anything else. So that's where you could see the physical and mental fatigue show up tonight. Some giveaways, some turnovers with the puck, and it could benefit the offense of both of these teams tonight. So given that premise, I like over 5.5 here tonight with Carolina and Nashville. As far as the side goes, the gut feel, Jimmy, is this is the first time we're going to see a road team win in this series. I think Carolina's got the temperament, mentality to close this out. And I'm going to go back to, once again, expected goals in the last game. This is the ultimate rope-a-dope in this series from the Nashville Predators. They know they can't trade chances with Nashville. They got to just hang back, let Carolina come at them, fire at them, and see if they can withstand the fort. But the last game, expected goals, 3.03 to 1.3. We're talking about a game that went to overtime. And yet in the expected goals statistic, Carolina's crushing Nashville in this series. They continue to crush Nashville in that statistic in this series. 3.03 expected goals to 1.03 in the last game. And at 5-on-5, 2.35 expected goals for Carolina, only 1.27 expected goals for the Nashville Predators. It is statistically, and the eye test shows you Carolina has been the better team in this series, but the problem has been Saros has been good. They haven't capitalized on as many of their chances as they probably should have. And the few chances Nashville's had, they've taken advantage of some costly penalties at bad times by Carolina, and that's been the issue. Carolina's penalty trouble has really kept Nashville in this series, and Nashville's capitalized on some of those chances. So you give them credit for that, but I definitely think Carolina's got it in them to go on the road and finally break the streak of home teams winning in this series. So I'm going to do something different tonight. And it pains me to do this and recommend a bet like this, because you're going to say, because I feel like a little bit of a chump, to be honest with you, recommending a bet like this, because it's minus 230. And you know me, I don't normally lay minus 230, and it's usually not something I have any interest doing. But I've now been burned more than a time or two in this series with these regulation bets and all of this stuff that I want to make sure I cover all of my bases here in this game tonight. I really think Carolina can end it. If I were to bet money line full game in this game tonight, it would be Carolina minus 140. But here's what I am going to do. I'm going to bet what's called a draw or double chance bet. And what that is Carolina minus 230, draw or double chance. It's the same kind of bet you can place on a soccer match. And I'll explain it. What this means is there are 3 of 4 possible results, possible outcomes in this game where I can win this bet. If Carolina wins in regulation, I win the bet. If Carolina wins in overtime, I win the bet. If Nashville wins in overtime, I win the bet with this Carolina draw double chance minus 230. The only way I can lose this is if Nashville wins in regulation tonight in game 6. And what's the one thing that is yet to happen in this series? That's Nashville winning a game in regulation. The 2 Nashville wins were both in overtime at home. I feel I've covered my bases. I don't see Nashville winning in regulation. If they do, I think it's probably in overtime again. And at the same time, if that does happen, I can still win the bet if Nashville wins in overtime. And obviously a Carolina win in any form wins that bet for me as well. So this is Carolina draw double chance minus 230. This is one of those bets you got to look more toward the European-based sports books to find it. It may not be at your many of your North American books, but this is definitely something that I want the safety and the security, because I'm not losing another Carolina in regulation bet here. I refuse to do it like I did the other night. This covers all the bases. 3 out of 4 possible results are in my favor. Give me a Carolina win in any form, that bet wins. Give me Nashville in overtime, that bet wins. The only way I lose is Nashville in regulation. And like I said, the Preds have not won a game in regulation yet in this series. So for me, Carolina draw double chance. Got to pay a premium, got to pay up minus 230, but it is a pretty steady, sturdy bet in my opinion, because I think one of those 3 results is exactly what's going to happen tonight. But if you ask me, Carolina will end it tonight, in my opinion. But I just want that security in case it's another Nashville in overtime victory, like it was in the previous 2 games in Nashville in this series. So a unique approach. I don't generally like laying a price that big, but I'm making an exception because of the way the flow of this series has been. Jimmy, what do you think tonight? Game 6, Nashville, Carolina.
Well, I think just an update, by the way, guys. NHL has just confirmed exactly what I told you regarding the Islanders Bruins schedule. Game 1, 8 p.m. at TD Garden on Saturday night. As far as this, I like Nashville. I think the home trend. Let's go. Let's keep her going here. Yep. I want to see a game 7 too. So give me Nashville on the money line. I definitely could see an overtime this. I like that. I might dabble a little in what you just proposed there, Ian. That's an interesting bet. I like it a lot. But right now, I'm going to give you an official play of the Nashville Predators on the money line.
All right, Nashville money line. And that's the way I was going. Like I say, if I'm going to take Carolina, I've got to have that overtime protection because this could be another overtime game. And if I didn't like that bet or was unwilling to lay minus 230, I'd probably bite the bullet and take Nashville, especially as someone that's got Carolina minus 1.5 games riding on this game tonight. Like I need Carolina to end the series tonight. If I'm going to win that Carolina minus 1.5 games bet that I took before the series started. So, maybe I should be hedging that with Nashville, but I decided I'm going to go the Carolina draw double check. I really, truly think they can end it. They have been carrying the play most of the series, and they've got it in them to finish this off tonight. But again, with this game just being somehow every game's been close lately. The 2 games in Nashville went to overtime, and that's going to be the beauty of this bet, Jimmy. If this goes to overtime once again tonight in Nashville, that bet's won for me. As long as it gets to overtime, I'm not going to have to worry about who wins the game at that point. That's the beauty of this Carolina draw double chance minus 230 route that I'm taking here in game 6 tonight. So that's the way I'm going. And I like the over as well, 5.5 plus 120 in this game tonight. By the way, the Hurricanes, we know Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen, Trocheck, and Jordan Staal, who had the game winner in overtime. They get all the headlines for Carolina. One of their best forwards, maybe their best forward this year, has been Martin Necas for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's been really good. He's been noticeable. He's been all around the net. Scored a big goal for them the other night. Marty Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes keeps getting better and better, and it's been good to see, no question about that. Steven trying to rile me up here, saying Preds in regulation. Yeah, the one result I can't afford to have happen tonight. Literally, I can't afford it tonight in multiple ways, Preds in regulation. I hope not. Can you imagine that? I go all this trouble laying minus 230 and Nashville wins like 2-1 or 3-1 in regulation tonight. That would not make me very happy. But nevertheless, we'll see how it goes tonight. Carolina and Nashville game 6. Predators looking to stay alive. Great stuff, Jimmy. That is the Thursday card. A reminder, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB on a daily basis. Lots to choose from. When you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up for an account, you'll get deposit bonus, weekly specials, incentives, and bet boosts. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN. All right, Jimmy, just 2 games, but we got to pick a best bet somewhere. What do you got for us? Best bet tonight.
Give me Smashville, baby. Give me the Nashville Predators to win and force a game 7. And by the way, Terry Edelman, little update for you. The NHL also saying that the game 1 of the series, if your team advances, the winner of the Wild and Vegas Golden Knights will play in Denver at 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday against the Avalanche. All
right, there we go. So that's a Sunday night game 1, regardless of who advances, with Vegas and Minnesota to take on the Avalanche. So that is confirmed. So good stuff, Jimmy, going with Nashville plus 125. Hopefully it's at least an overtime win for Nashville, and we're all happy in that regard. My best bet tonight is going to be, I don't want to give you a minus 230 price as a best bet. It's honestly the bet I like most, but I don't want to use a price like that as a best bet. Let's do the over in that game. Carolina, Nashville, over 5.5 plus 120. I think we'll get enough goals to get that game over the number. And I think fatigue sets in for both of these blue lines in particular. Lots of hockey's been played, multiple overtime games. That adds up over the course of a series that is now in its 6th game. And I think you're going to see maybe a few more defensive blunders and miscues tonight, which could lead to a better chance for the puck ending up in the back of the net for both of these teams. So we'll go with the Hurricanes and the Predators over 5.5 plus 120. That'll be my best bet for this Thursday Stanley Cup playoffs card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live on YouTube 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, make sure you download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeart. You can find the Ice Guys podcast on all of those outlets. For Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast